The year was 1928, and the desert lay like a sheet of hammered copper beneath a pitiless sun. Dr. Eleanor Marsh, lately of Oxford and untroubled by superstition, arrived at the ruins of ancient Nineveh with a caravan of weary men and mules. They called the place Beit al-Raqi, the House of Winds, and even the guides, hardened by years of digging in old empires, refused to camp near its broken ziggurat. From the first moment she stepped upon that sand, the air seemed to watch her. The wind did not move as wind should. It came in measured sighs, as though some buried thing were breathing beneath the dunes. Her foreman, Farid, touched a charm at his neck and murmured, "Madame, we dig when the wind turns west. The east wind is unclean." Eleanor smiled, the thin English smile meant to disguise unease. "Winds have no morals, Farid. They merely obey physics." He said nothing more. The ziggurat's eastern face had collapsed long ago, sealing a stairway that no shovel had touched for centuries. Each dusk, when the light turned the sand to blood, the laborers abandoned their tools and lit fires in a perfect ring around the camp, muttering verses that Eleanor could not translate. On the fourth evening, impatient with their fear, she took a lantern and descended alone into the ruin. There she found a chamber lined with bas-reliefs of winged men locked in battle with serpents of the air. At its center, half buried in drifted dust, lay a small idol of bronze darkened by age, a creature both human and beast, its wings outstretched, its face part snarl, part grin. Upon its base were words cut in the arrow-headed script she knew too well. She traced them with her gloved finger and whispered the translation. "I am Pazuzu, son of Hanpa, lord of the eastern winds. I bring storm and sickness. I guard against that which is worse." As the final syllable left her lips, the flame of her lantern bent sideways and steadied again, pointing toward the idol as though drawn to breath. The air tasted of iron. She carried the object to the surface, ignoring Farid's horrified stare. "He was sleeping," he said hoarsely. "You have given him a mouth again." Eleanor laughed, but the sound seemed to echo twice her voice, and another, softer and nearer to her ear. Sleep would not come. The wind rose after midnight, pressing the canvas of her tent inward until it beat like a living heart. Within each pulse she heard a whisper, always the same word, "Find me." She told herself it was imagination, the result of fatigue and the thin air of the plateau. Yet when dawn came, the desert lay scoured clean of footprints, as though all her men had fled, until one by one they emerged from their tents, pale and silent, refusing to meet her eye. In her journal she wrote, "The object exerts peculiar fascination, possibly meteor-iron. Weather violent in night, though sky clear. Acoustic anomaly, wind seems to carry articulation resembling speech." She ended the entry there, unwilling to record the sentence that trembled behind her thoughts. "It knows my name." By the week's end, the idol was packed among her personal effects. Farid and the others would not touch the crate. When the caravan turned west, a dust storm rose from the opposite horizon, an east wind chasing them like a living wall. For 2 days it followed without overtaking, a thing watching rather than hunting. Only when they reached Mosul did it cease, falling away in a single sudden sigh. The men crossed themselves or prayed in silence. Eleanor did neither. She simply felt the air grow heavy and still, as if the wind had stepped inside her instead. A year swiftly passed. The autumn of 1929 came to England soaked and gray, every street washed in the smell of wet stone. Dr. Eleanor Marsh returned to her small terraced house on the north side of Oxford with little ceremony. Her colleagues were away at conference. Her housekeeper had long since taken other work. Only the ticking of her clock welcomed her home. She unpacked her field crates in the study. The bronze idol lay swaddled in its wrappings, dull under the lamp. She told herself she would ship it to the museum after cataloging the rest. But each evening she found some new excuse to delay: the weather, her notes, fatigue. When she finally placed it on the mantel, the house seemed to exhale, as though the air had been waiting for that single act. By the end of October, the wind had vanished. The garden stood motionless. The curtains never stirred. Not even the river fog moved across the panes. Oxford was a city that lived by draughts and breezes. Their absence gave her a sense of being buried alive. At night, she heard a faint rasp through the chimney. Sometimes it was only breath, sometimes the dry hiss of sand. Once, half asleep, she thought she heard her own name carried through the flue, drawn out syllable by syllable. She wrote in her journal, the house unnaturally still. Windows resist opening. Object emits odor of heated metal. Dreams, wind howling over ruins, laughter within it. On the 31st of October, the faculty held its annual masquerade. Eleanor went reluctantly, compelled by habit more than desire. She wore a costume of crimson silk and a small bronze pendant cast from the idol's face, a trinket made in jest by one of her students. The hall was bright with candles and chatter. Outside, the rain came in sheets, tapping against the windows like fingers. As midnight approached, the air changed. The laughter thinned, then died. Someone whispered that the windows were breathing. The clock struck 12. A gust burst through the doors, warm, dry, carrying the smell of dust. Candles flared, then extinguished in one breath. In the moment of darkness, Eleanor felt the heat against her throat where the pendant rested. When light returned, the bronze had burned her skin in the shape of a wing. She tore it off and fled into the rain, leaving it on the ballroom floor. Those who found it later swore the metal was still warm, though the room itself was cold. At home she locked every latch and drew the curtains tight, but the stillness had changed. The silence now pressed inward. She heard the faint rattle of panes, a shifting of soot down the chimney. Then very softly, a voice. "The wind has no home. You have given me yours." The lamp went out. In the dark, she saw the idol, faintly luminescent, as though light seeped from within its bronze skin. She tried to lift it. It would not move. When she touched its wings, the surface pulsed once, as if a vein beat beneath it. Her journal for that night ends abruptly. The 31st of October. East wind returned. The next day, the neighbors found her front door ajar and the curtains moving, though there was no breeze. The house smelled of dust and copper. Every mirror was filmed with grit, every surface covered in a thin layer of sand. On the mantel, the idol sat unchanged, its wings folded neatly. Only one thing was different. Beneath it lay Dr. Marsh's spectacles, half buried in powder as fine as ash. The coroner wrote disappearance, presumed death. The museum registered her remaining artifacts under Marsh collection. No one claimed the idol. And like that, we approach the conclusion to our story. A full year had passed since the disappearance of Dr. Eleanor Marsh. Her name faded from the newspapers. The faculty spoke of her only in brief, embarrassed tones. The house on Wellington Road stood empty, its windows clouded from within by a film of fine grit. In September of 1930, a new tenant arrived, Mr. Henry Corbett, a junior lecturer in ancient languages. He was practical, tidy, and incurably skeptical, just the sort of man to scoff at ghost stories. When the estate agent mentioned a former occupant's unfortunate vanishing, he only smiled. "People see mysteries where there are none," he said. "The world has enough real devils without inventing them." The house smelled faintly metallic when he moved in. He attributed it to disuse and began airing the rooms. Yet no matter how long the windows stood open, the smell lingered. Dust clung to the walls in patterns that returned even after scrubbing. Rings, spirals, marks like the swirls left by a departing tide. On the mantel of the study, he found the bronze figure, heavy and cold to the touch. Its surface was dull, its wings folded close against its back. The label beneath read simply, Mesopotamia, unclassified. He meant to carry it to the college for appraisal, but never quite remembered to do so. At night, he heard the faintest movement within the flue, like sand running through an hourglass. Sometimes it came as a sigh, sometimes as a low chuckle that made the hairs on his arms rise. He wrote to his friend, Professor Latham, who had known Dr. Marsh. October 10th, 1930. The house is charming if a trifle peculiar. There is a draft that moves though the air outside is still. Each morning my desk is powdered with the same yellow dust. I am beginning to believe Miss Marsh kept some substance from the dig. It creeps into everything, even the ink. Latham replied only once. Burn whatever she left behind, especially the bronze idol. It is older than our language for fear. Corbett laughed and folded the letter into a drawer. By late October, the city's children wore paper masks in the streets, and the bells of St. John's rang for All Hallows. The east wind returned, warm and dry against the autumn cold. Leaves swirled in small whirlwinds that vanished when approached. Corbett dreamed of deserts he had never seen, of endless dunes under a bruised sky. In his dreams stood a woman in a torn khaki coat, her hair full of dust, her eyes as blank as the idol's. She whispered. He breathes through the cracks. He woke to find the study door open and the bronze figure gleaming faintly, though no light touched it. On the 31st, he sat by the fire, reading Marsh's recovered journal. Outside, the wind rose, carrying with it the smell of far-off rain that never came. From the chimney came a hollow moan, and a voice, not loud but clear. You gave him a mouth again. The lamp sputtered out. He turned and saw the idol's wings unfurl slowly, metal grinding against itself. A hiss of sand spilled from its base, swirling up into the air until the whole room turned the color of rust. Within that storm stood three shapes, a woman, a child, and something behind them with wings that filled the ceiling. The woman, Marsh, lifted her hand, palm upward. Return him to the wind, she said. Corbett grasped the figure, meaning to throw it into the fire, but it clung to his palms as if molten. The flames bent outward, forming a circle around him. Then everything went silent, so silent that he heard his own heartbeat stop for an instant. When sound returned, the room was empty. Only the bronze idol remained, lying on its side, its wings folded once more. The next morning, the milkman found the front door ajar and the hall full of dust. Mr. Corbett was gone. The furniture was coated in fine yellow powder. Even the photographs had been scoured clean, their faces erased. The authorities sealed the house again. They called it cursed. The neighbors called it the house that breathes. Each year since, on the night of Halloween, the windows mist from within, and a warm wind sighs through the street, carrying with it the scent of dust and copper. Children whisper that if you listen at the door, you'll hear three voices, one laughing, one pleading, and one whispering a name older than storms. Thank you for listening. Join our always growing legion. Discover Satanworld.